Hi guys, my name is Caleb from TravelbyBit. With me here is Tone Vays.
Hey Caleb.
Visiting Brisbane.
Awesome. Brisbane's amazing, and now we're doing a little bit of hiking. It's awesome.
Tone, it's great to have you here in Brisbane. I guess we've been hanging out the last few days. I've never had so much exercise or sweat in my life. Tell me what you think of Brisbane.
I really like it. It was always in my top 10 cities, but there's also a difference between a city that you like to visit and a city that you could actually live 12 months a year. So even though Brisbane may not be at the very top of my list as a city you like to visit for a month or so, it is certainly almost at the very top of my list as a city you would actually want to live in. The weather is amazing, the food is great. What more can you ask for? Brisbane is incredible.
Okay. So tell us what have you been up to recently?
Oh boy, so recently a lot of my attention has been focused on conferences, trying to support the Bitcoin space, having conferences that educate people about Bitcoin and educate people about finance and investing. Still maintain my YouTube channel, still travel and speak around the world. So everything is still surrounding, Bitcoin adoption, and it continues to be very challenging. Everyone wants to start their own competitors to Bitcoin. Everyone's trying to sell you fake Bitcoin, and I know Bitcoin's going to win anyway, but I'm just trying to protect people to make sure that they save their money in something that will actually still be there in 5 years.
Talking about Bitcoin adoption, did you know that Brisbane has probably one of the highest concentrations of Bitcoin accepting merchants in Australia, if not the world?
It's probably, yeah, I can see it challenging the world, certainly per capita, right? So I'm not sure if Brisbane can say we have more merchants accepting Bitcoin than say somewhere like New York, but New York has way bigger population and way more merchants. But yeah, I knew that Brisbane and Australia in general is very Bitcoin friendly, relatively speaking, and there is a lot of merchants, and it's amazing how many of them here in Brisbane accept Bitcoin Lightning payments. I think you're clearly one of the biggest Lightning adopters, along with maybe Germany. Definitely challenging, and that's awesome. I know you're one of the few airports that has like Bitcoin ATMs and Bitcoin merchants at the airport.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think about when some people say we don't need to push Bitcoin adoption yet? It's something that you hodl, you don't really want to spend it. What's your views on that?
No, I don't mind pushing Bitcoin adoption as payments. I never had a problem with that. But people have to realize that Bitcoin is still developing. And these transactions may not always be fast, they may not always be cheap, and you may not have customers rushing in just because you're accepting Bitcoin. As long as you pitch it to the merchants in a realistic way, you don't give them false expectations. And that was one of the problems. Some of the early promoters of Bitcoin for transactional purposes were telling merchants that it's like free, instant, unlimited payment. And that just wasn't true. Maybe they thought it was true, but that's just not true. With Lightning, it's a lot better. Lightning is still in development, maybe a year or two from now. So as long as the merchant really understands the Bitcoin space, or as they really know what they're doing, it's great. But I hate giving people false expectations. And I followed that in other aspects as well. The first time I did all of my conferences last year, I never had any sponsors because I was always concerned that I get a sponsorship and I promise to sponsor a certain number of people, that they're gonna do great, and that I can't deliver. So I'm always conscious about that. Now that my conferences had a full year, I know what to expect, and now I can provide sponsors with reasonable expectations because I have a baseline. And I think that's important, to be honest. It's not because if you cut some corners and you get a business to accept crypto, God forbid you get them to accept the wrong Bitcoin, I think you can lose that merchant for years and years to come, instead of being more honest, more patient, and maybe getting them a year later, but now you got them for life instead of getting them too early and have them be frustrated, and then you lose them for the next 5 years.
That's true. That's true. And we're really at the early stages of adoption at this point of time. I mean, what TravelbyBit does is we're a point of sale system. We help merchants learn how to accept payments over the Lightning Network. What we find is the usage is really low. Usage is low, and so therefore it's not necessarily a sustainable business, but it's actually really important, because when I ask new people who are coming into the system what would make them get into Bitcoin and have more trust in Bitcoin, all of them say the same thing: if we could see it used in more places. So that might not be, it might not be something that the closed Bitcoin community acknowledges, but the people outside the ecosystem, those guys who travel through Brisbane Airport, the 20 million people who go through Brisbane Airport, when they see Bitcoin accepted signs, those are the guys that will come in because they've seen it at the merchants, although the merchants are not really doing a lot of transactions. It helps build the faith and the trust in the ecosystem.
Yes, and for me, it's not interesting to me that a merchant accepts Bitcoin that doesn't even keep any of the Bitcoin. So if a merchant comes online accepting Bitcoin, but that Bitcoin immediately gets converted to local fiat currency at the point of sale system, that merchant is not interesting to me. TravelbyBit is a lot more interesting to me than, say, Expedia. Expedia used to accept Bitcoin to get your flights. However, Expedia, the company, would never hold on to any of the Bitcoin.
True.
Expedia, the company, never had even an interest passing on that Bitcoin to the merchant they're booking travel with. Now, TravelbyBit, I'm sure it's very early in the game. You guys are not yet passing on any of the Bitcoin to the merchants themselves.
Yeah.
But at least you as a company hold on to some of that Bitcoin. You try to pay your employees in Bitcoin. You try to cover your expenses in Bitcoin, right? So at least as a layer of the middleman, you guys are Bitcoin friendly, and you try to create a circular economy with the Bitcoin. And I'm sure the moment, let's say, you are booking for a local hotel in Brisbane, if that hotel comes to you and say, hey guys, hey Caleb, so we're starting to really like this concept of Bitcoin. We have some of our employees at our hotel that are interested in getting some of their salary in Bitcoin. How hard is it for you to, when someone books at our place with Bitcoin through your site, to pass that Bitcoin on to us? And you will literally say, we can do that right now.
True.
Right. So, and that is something Expedia will never say.
No.
If Expedia was still accepting Bitcoin. So that's the important part.
That's
For
true.
me, it's the merchants. So if I had options, if I decided to spend my Bitcoin with a middleman travel agent, like yourself, you're not really a travel agent, but you get the point, right? A middleman travel booking company, of course I would rather go through you guys than something like Expedia, because with you, at least there is a chance that that Bitcoin will get passed along and not immediately liquidated.
That's true. That's true. I mean, for us, we are like an Expedia in that sense. We enable bookings for flights and hotels anywhere around the world. We are licensed travel agents, but we are also, I guess, a licensed crypto payment processor. So we've combined the two, and we've enabled the service that we truly provide at TravelbyBit is we enable people without bank accounts to be able to buy flights and accommodation, just paying natively in Bitcoin. And we hold a significant amount of our treasury in Bitcoin. We do have to liquidate from time to time to pay some of the suppliers, but for the most part, we pay our staff in crypto.
And that's very important to me as deciding which crypto companies I want to promote, which crypto companies I want to have affiliate codes with. It's not about how much I get as a kickback, it's more about how much am I helping promote the Bitcoin economy.
True. The other thing that's really, really important to us is when we take payments in Bitcoin, here's why we actually do it and why we actually make it cheaper if you pay in Bitcoin. Because we don't get the chargeback risk. That's the amazing thing. On our travel platform, we can take bookings from anyone around the world without the risk of credit card fraud. But then the trust of the booking comes back to the business. On us, consumers who sends their Bitcoin to us have to trust us a lot. And so trust is a big factor, and that's the one thing that we try to do really, really well. We provide really good customer support. And we provide prices that are a little bit cheaper now because we don't have to deal with the merchant fraud issue.
Not to mention the 3% credit card fee.
That's true. That's true. All right. The other thing that I would like to ask you about, which is quite an interesting view you have. Tell us a little bit about on your views on alternate coins, or shitcoins as they call it.
Yes. So I believe that at the end of the day, it will be Bitcoin. There's a slight misconception that where people say, well, Tone is only invested in Bitcoin, so he wants everything else to kind of die. He wants all the other coins to fail. And that's a misconception. My view is because the crypto space is a true free market economy, unlike the traditional fiat system. Here, the government of Australia makes sure that everyone uses the Australian dollar. In the US, it's US dollars. In Europe, it's euros. But in a free market like crypto, no jurisdiction forces you to use Litecoin. No jurisdiction forces you to use other cryptocurrencies. And therefore, the best one is going to succeed. It's the famous saying like good money drives out bad money, because everyone will want to spend the crappy money that they think is not going to hold value, and they'll save in it. So you guys at TravelbyBit accept multiple currencies. You guys accept Bitcoin, you accept Litecoin. I believe you also accept the Binance token and the Tether, the stable coin. And without even asking you, I am 90% certain that Bitcoin is your most used currency on your site. Even though you want to get rid of your Litecoin, you want to get rid of your Binance token, you want to hold on to as much Bitcoin as you can, and people still use Bitcoin. And because of this free market, all of these old coins are going to get driven out. They're not as secure, they're not as fast, or they might be today because no one's using your particular coin, but Lightning on Bitcoin will get mass adopted. Bitcoin will be the fastest, Bitcoin will be the cheapest, it'll be the most secure, and it's the best store of value. So why in the world would anyone use any of the other ones? So over time, each of them, some of them will pop up based on hype, but over time, they will all depreciate against the gold standard, which is Bitcoin. And I have a long-term outlook on this. I teach people how to short-term speculate and trade. You can trade anything. You can trade the scammiest of the altcoins if your end goal is to get more Bitcoin. But if you think that Litecoin will surpass Bitcoin, Ethereum will surpass Bitcoin, that's insane. The free market will drive these things out because they're just not as good. So because my long-term view is that the free market will settle on the best currency, and until I see a better currency than Bitcoin, and the probability of that is almost zero, just based on the fact that Bitcoin is the only one that's actually decentralized. It has the only one that has human confidence. That's my long-term outlook, so the other stuff is just not interesting to me. It's all about the Bitcoin.
That's true. That's true. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks for your time, Tony. We really enjoyed having you and hosting you down here in Queensland, Australia. We hope you come back.
Awesome. Thank you. Hey, guys. And if you are looking for more, check out the Tone Vays YouTube channel and check out the events I put together to help support the Bitcoin space. Unconfiscatable in Vegas, Understanding Bitcoin in Malta, and the financial summits more geared for the professional trader and investor.
And you can also book your flights and accommodation with Bitcoin
for all these events and more.
To TravelbyBit. Yeah.
Awesome. Brisbane, one of my favorite cities in the world. Whoa.